Johan pidato bahasa Inggris bahagian perempuan dimenangi oleh Nurhaniza binti Mustafa Kamal dari Polytechnic Paulison.
This opportunity to thank all the English lecturers and all students of Polytechnic Paulison for their moral support and guidance. Thank you very much. Good morning to the honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor. I'm very honored today to be given the chance to give out my speech entitled The Implication of Human Cloning on Mankind. But before I begin to elaborate on my points today, allow me to introduce you to the definitions of the key words used in our title. According to Oxford's New English Dictionary, edition 2000, implication is defined as the impression made by an idea in a social group. Human is defined as having the attributes of man as opposed to animals. Cloning is defined as a group of organisms or cells of the same genetic constitution that are descended from a common ancestor through asexual reproduction. And mankind is defined as human beings collectively. Overall, the implication of human cloning on mankind means the effect of cloning the human species towards human being. The successful cloning of an adult sheep announced in Scotland last year is one of the recent examples showing a scientific discovery becoming a public issue. People have been busily responding to the news. Some calming fears are raising alarms about the prospect of cloning a human being. There are many reports on the religious, ethical, moral, and legal issues surrounding human cloning, including its effect on mankind. Ladies and gentlemen, the first report on human cloning was partially based on religious beliefs. One report from the Islamic press revealed that human cloning is against God's will, as they believe that everything about a clone was not meant to be. But some also argued that the success of cloning human being, which created Eve, the first human clone, happened because God allowed it. There are many similar reports from other religions claiming the same thing, that human cloning is a human act of God and should be abolished. However, these statements don't contribute much to actually stop scientists from continuing their research, as it can't be proved scientifically, and they are more concerned about the possibilities in a cloned child after it has been successfully created. This leads me to my second point. The ethical issues of greatest importance surrounding the cloning debate, however, do not involve possible failures of the cloning technology, but rather its consequences. Assuming that scientists were able to clone human beings without incurring the risk mentioned, what concerns might there be about the welfare of the clones? Some opponents believe that such individuals would be wronged in morally significant ways. For example, a child might be constantly compared to the adult from whom he was cloned and thereby be burdened with oppressive expectations. Even worse, the parents might actually limit the child's opportunity for growth and development. Finally, regardless of his parents' conduct or attitudes, the child might be burdened by the thought that he is just a copy and not an original. The child's self-worth or individuality or dignity, so some have argued, would thus be difficult to sustain. Ladies and gentlemen, let us ignore the psychological and scientific effects of human cloning and focus our mind on moral and humanity. When a cloned child is being born, who exactly are the parents of this child? Is it the scientist that created it, or the woman that kept it in her womb for 9 months, or is it the person who donated his DNA to create this child? Now, let us consider a central argument that has been made against cloning, that it undermines the structure of a family by making identities and lineages unclear. On the one hand, the relationship between an adult and the child cloned from her could be described as that of a parent and an offspring. Indeed, some commentators did describe cloning as asexual reproduction, which clearly suggests that cloning is a way of generating descendants. The clone on this view has only one biological parent. On the other hand, the clone is a sibling. So cloning is more accurately described as a delayed tuning rather than asexual reproduction. The clone on this view has two biological parents. They are the same as those of that person from whom this individual was cloned from. Cloning thus results in ambiguities. Is the clone an offspring or a sibling? We have now reached my fourth and last point, the advantage, or most likely the good side, of human cloning. Firstly, it shows the world the development of human technology, which proves that the human mind is somehow very advanced and very intelligent. This is very important, especially in the medical aspect. For example, the parents of a terminally ill child are told that only a bone marrow transplant could save the child's life. Having no other donor available, the parents attempt to clone a human being from the cells of the dying child. If successful, the clone could be the perfect match for the bone marrow transplant and become a donor without any significant risk or discomfort. The results: two healthy children, loved by their parents, and they happen to be identical twins of different ages. This makes what is probably the strongest case for human cloning, as it demonstrates how this technology could be used for life-saving purposes. Ladies and gentlemen, before I end my speech today, I would like each and every one of us to open our minds and think rationally of the impact of human cloning, as everything has its advantages and disadvantages. It is up to us to decide on what we want to believe. Thank you.
Seterusnya, sebagai